Listen carefully, because Padre Pio once shocked his followers by saying that the greatest battles of your life will never be won with fists or arguments, but with beads in your hands. He called the Rosary his weapon, not as a symbol, not as poetry, his weapon. When demons filled his room at night, when shadows pressed against his chest until he could barely breathe, when every sound carried terror, he did not reach for a candle or a charm. He reached for the Rosary, and hell trembled. Those close to him remember how he spoke of each bead like a bullet of light. Every Hail Mary, he said, was fire cutting through the enemy's walls. He never exaggerated. He lived it. People around him testified that oppression lifted, sickness left, torment broke, and peace returned when that chain of beads moved through his fingers. To Padre Pio, the Rosary was never just prayer, it was combat. He repeated over and over, if the faithful truly understood the Rosary, prisons of fear, despair, and addiction would collapse in an instant. He warned that many walk into life's battles unarmed. Faith in the heart, yes, but no weapon in their hand. For Padre Pio, the Rosary was that weapon. He often pointed back to the armor of God and showed how Mary's intercession was not decoration, but strategy. The Rosary, he said, tied believers to that strategy, pulling them into protection, binding the serpent under her heel. Stay with this, because before these words are finished, you will discover exactly how Padre Pio fought night after night with the Rosary. You will see why he refused to be seen without it wrapped around his fingers. You will hear the way he instructed his spiritual children to carry it, to pray it, to trust it, not as superstition, but as force. And you will also hear his warning, the danger of treating it lightly or praying it without heart. Picture him, a man carrying the wounds of Christ in his body, harassed by darkness yet never surrendering. His victory did not come from his own strength. It came from holding fast to the Rosary until his knuckles burned. He described it as the chain that binds Satan, the rope that pulls souls from darkness, the key that unlocks prison doors. That chain is not trapped in the past. It waits to rest in your hand tonight. Love the Madonna and pray the Rosary, he often told those around him, for her Rosary is the weapon against the evils of the world today. These were not pretty words. They were the testimony of a soldier who had been there, who had fought, who had survived. If you knew that beads in your hand could silence the voices that torment you, would you not hold them tighter? If you knew that this weapon could drive darkness out of your home, would you not cling to it until light broke in? This much is certain. If you remain with what Padre Pio passed on, you will not leave empty. You will leave carrying what he carried, armed as he was armed. The chains that once tried to choke him are the same chains trying to bind you, and the weapon that broke them in his hands is waiting to be placed in yours. But Padre Pio also revealed something deeper, that the Rosary only shows its full power when you understand who you truly are. That is where we go next. Padre Pio often reminded his children in the faith that the Rosary in itself is not a magic chain. Its power awakens when the one holding it remembers who they are. He said the enemy trembles not only because of the beads, but because of the hands that dare to use them with faith. He explained that when a believer forgets their true identity, they pray like beggars. But when they know who they are in Christ, they pray like heirs, like soldiers standing under heaven's command. He pointed to moments in Scripture where identity made all the difference. In the Gospel, when the prodigal son returned, his father did not call him a servant. He restored him as a son. Padre Pio repeated this truth. You are not approaching God as a stranger. You are approaching him as his child. He said the Rosary is most dangerous to the kingdom of darkness when prayed with that conviction. Each Hail Mary becomes not just words, but the voice of a child summoning their mother, calling for protection, asking for victory. Padre Pio himself lived from this awareness. He knew he was marked by Christ, chosen to bear the stigmata, but he never claimed the strength as his own. He carried wounds in his flesh, but he told those around him the only reason he endured the assaults of hell was because he belonged to God, and that identity could not be stolen. The Rosary, he said, reminded him of that truth every day. Holding it was like wrapping his fingers around the covenant that declared, "I am not abandoned, I am not defenseless, I am His." He warned that when people forget this, they pray the Rosary as though hoping something might happen. He corrected them gently but firmly. Do not pray as if God is far. Pray as one who is loved. This shift in posture, he said, is what transforms the Rosary from repetition into fire, because every bead, every prayer rises from the identity of a child calling out, not of a stranger pleading at the gate. Padre Pio described how the enemy works to steal that awareness. Darkness whispers, "You are forgotten, you are guilty, you are powerless." He said that is the first strike in spiritual warfare, attacking identity. If you believe you are powerless, you will never lift the weapon that sits in your hand. But if you remember that you are marked, chosen, sealed by grace, then even whispering the Rosary becomes thunder in the spirit. He once told a group of pilgrims, "The Rosary is the weapon, but your faith is the arm that swings it." Faith, he explained, is born from knowing your place as God's own. Without it, the beads remain silent. With it, the beads roar. He assured them that Mary herself responds as a mother, not to strangers, but to children calling her name. She runs where her children call, he said, and Satan cannot stand where she arrives. Those who visited him often left with a new awareness. They saw a frail man, body torn by wounds, yet they felt an authority that made darkness scatter. They asked him, "Father, how do you endure?" He lifted his Rosary and said, "This is my weapon. But remember, it belongs to children of God, not to the enemy. It works because you are His." Think of it this way. The same chain that rested in Padre Pio's hands can rest in yours. But if you see yourself as unworthy, you will drop it. If you see yourself as chosen, you will grip it with courage. Padre Pio insisted that the Rosary is not about eloquence. It is about alignment. Aligned identity, aligned prayer, aligned power. So pause for a moment. Ask yourself, when you hold the beads, do you see yourself as a desperate soul knocking on a closed door, or as a child stepping into the Father's house? Padre Pio said the answer to that question decides whether your Rosary becomes routine or a weapon. And this is why he never went a day without pressing those beads into his palm. They reminded him in every battle that he was not alone, not defeated, not forgotten. They reminded him that his true identity made him dangerous to hell. That identity is yours as well. And once it is clear, the instructions on how to wield this weapon become simple and powerful. That is what Padre Pio passed on next, step by step. How to use the Rosary as your weapon in daily battle. Padre Pio never left people with only the idea of the Rosary as a weapon. He gave precise instructions on how to carry it, how to pray it, and how to make it effective in daily battle. He did not want anyone to treat it like an ornament hanging from a rear-view mirror or a necklace around the neck. He insisted, the Rosary belongs in your hands, ready to move at any hour. He told his children that the first act is preparation. Before lifting the beads, still your heart. Make the sign of the cross slowly and deliberately, not as routine but as a seal. Padre Pio reminded them that even demons recognize the cross and tremble. Beginning with that sign is like raising the flag of heaven before battle begins. He said, never start without the cross. It is the banner under which you march. The second step he gave was obedience in structure. The Rosary has its order for a reason. The Creed, the Our Father, the Hail Marys, the Glory Be, each one is a step deeper into protection. Padre Pio warned that skipping parts or rushing through them weakens the flow. He compared it to an army marching out of formation. The power is in the unity, not in scattered pieces. Do not rush, he told them. Let the beads guide you like a soldier's cadence. He then emphasized the mysteries. For Padre Pio, meditating on the mysteries of Christ's life and Mary's role was not optional. He said the mysteries are what load the rosary with fire. Without meditation, the words remain on the lips. With meditation, they burn in the soul. He instructed his children to see the scenes clearly. The Annunciation, the crucifixion, the resurrection. He told them to enter those moments, to let the rosary carry them into Christ's story. Every mystery is a sword stroke against the darkness, he said. Padre Pio also taught how to hold the beads, not carelessly, not loosely, but firmly. He kept the rosary wrapped around his hand even when he slept. Those who cared for him remember waking him in the night and finding the beads clenched in his fingers. He told them, "Do not let the weapon fall from your hand. Let it sleep with you. Let it rise with you. Keep it near, and the enemy will know you are armed." Another instruction he gave was about intention. He urged never to pray the rosary as empty repetition. He said, "Each prayer must leave your heart like an arrow. If your mind wanders, bring it back. Aim it again." He acknowledged that distractions would come, but he told them not to stop, because even distracted, the rosary still moves heavenward. "Persevere," he said. "The enemy flees not from perfect words, but from faithful persistence." Padre Pio was also clear that the rosary must be prayed with humility. He warned that pride blocks its power. Some wanted to use it as a badge of holiness, to show others their devotion. He rebuked this sharply. The rosary is not for display. It is for battle. Do not parade it. Use it. For him, humility was armor. Without it, the weapon could backfire, leaving a soul vulnerable. He urged families to pray together. He said a household united in the rosary becomes a fortress no enemy can breach. He described homes where parents and children prayed each night as walls built of living stones. He encouraged them not to wait for perfect peace to pray, but to let the rosary create that peace. And Padre Pio did not allow excuses. Whether tired, busy, or burdened, he prayed many rosaries daily, sometimes dozens. He taught that fatigue is no reason to lay down the weapon. "Soldiers do not drop their sword because the march is long," he said. "You pray until the day's end, because the enemy does not sleep." His final instruction was simple but urgent. Never let the rosary out of reach. Carry it in your pocket, under your pillow, in your bag. He told them, "When the devil comes suddenly, you will not have time to look for your weapon. Keep it with you. Grip it as you breathe." And those who obeyed testified that moments of fear, temptation, and despair broke instantly when their hands closed around the beads. This is the way Padre Pio taught. Prepare with the cross, follow the order, meditate on the mysteries, grip the beads, pray with intention and humility, unite your family, and never let go. He promised that those who obeyed these instructions would see breakthrough. And yet he also warned, many misuse the rosary, and in doing so, strip it of its fire. His corrections were sharp, but they saved countless souls from treating the weapon as superstition. That is what comes next. Padre Pio never hesitated to correct those who treated the rosary lightly or used it wrongly. He knew that a weapon handled carelessly can harm the one who carries it. Over the years, he confronted certain patterns he saw again and again, mistakes that drained the rosary of its fire and left people unprotected. His corrections were sharp, but always filled with urgency to bring them back to the truth. The first mistake he warned against was treating the rosary as a charm. Many would wear it around their neck or hang it in their homes as if the beads themselves carried magic. Padre Pio rebuked this thinking. He said, "The beads alone are nothing. Power is not in the string, but in the prayer that moves through it. He compared a rosary left hanging on a wall to a sword rusting in its sheath. The enemy does not fear beads unused. He fears beads prayed with faith. Another mistake he addressed was rushing. Some prayed as if racing to finish, repeating the words without attention, their lips moving, but their hearts absent. Padre Pio told them plainly, "You are not reciting to pass time. You are engaging in battle." He warned that hurried prayer was like swinging a sword without aim, noise without impact. He urged his children to slow down, to breathe each word, to let the mysteries take root. The rosary prayed with love, even if slow, is stronger than 1,000 rushed prayers, he said. He also corrected those who used the rosary only in emergencies. He noticed that many reached for it only when in crisis, when fear struck or sickness appeared. He told them, "Do not wait for war to sharpen your weapon. Train daily, and you will be ready when battle comes." To Padre Pio, praying only in panic was like a soldier searching for his sword after the enemy had already entered the camp. He urged daily discipline, not seasonal desperation. Pride was another error he could not tolerate. Some carried the rosary to show their holiness, to be seen as devout. Padre Pio rebuked this spirit of display. He said the rosary is not for appearance, but for survival. He warned that pride opens the door to the enemy, even if beads are in hand. True prayer must rise from humility, from knowing one's need for God and Mary's help. Without humility, the rosary loses its sharpness. Padre Pio also confronted superstition. Some believed that the mere repetition of Hail Marys would guarantee blessing, even without heart or faith. He exposed this lie. The rosary is not a spell, he said. It is a cry of love. He taught that every bead must be tied to the heart's trust, not to superstition. Repetition without faith, he warned, leaves the door open for disappointment. But when faith fuels each prayer, heaven answers. He corrected those who gave up too quickly. Many stopped praying because distractions came or because answers seemed delayed. Padre Pio encouraged persistence. He told them, "Even when your mind wanders, continue. Do not stop. The enemy fears your persistence." He taught that perseverance itself is a weapon, cutting through darkness little by little until breakthrough comes. Another correction came for families. He saw parents handing children beads, but never praying with them. He reminded them, children learn the power of the rosary, not by holding it, but by hearing it prayed. He urged families to gather, to let the sound of voices together create a fortress. Neglecting this, he warned, left the household vulnerable. Padre Pio also pointed out the danger of neglect. Some owned many rosaries but left them untouched. He said owning a weapon without using it gives no protection. He urged everyone to carry it daily, to let the beads wear thin from use. A worn rosary is a sign of victory, he said. A new rosary untouched is no sign at all. Through all these corrections, Padre Pio was not condemning, he was equipping. He wanted his children to avoid empty forms and enter living prayer. He wanted them to stop treating the rosary as decoration or duty and start wielding it as fire. Every correction pointed to the same truth. The rosary is powerful only when prayed with faith, humility, persistence, and love. Those who received his words changed. They slowed their prayers. They prayed daily, not occasionally. They held the beads with reverence, not as display. They prayed as children, not as strangers. And the testimonies multiplied, homes delivered from oppression, hearts filled with peace, battles turned to victories. Padre Pio always ended these corrections with hope. He said, "If you have prayed wrongly, begin again. If you have neglected, start today." The rosary is waiting, the Madonna is listening, the weapon is ready. And when he had cleared away the errors, he did not leave his children in rebuke. He called them to activate the rosary in real prayer, to step into the breakthrough it carried. That activation is what he taught next. After correcting the errors, Padre Pio never left souls standing at the edge of battle without stepping in. He urged them to activate the Rosary, not later, not someday, but in the moment. He described the shift that happens when prayer is not theory but weapon. When beads in the hand release fire into the air, he said, "Do not wait for a perfect mood. Begin, and the grace will come." He would lead people straight into prayer. He invited them to grip the Rosary firmly, to feel the weight of each bead, and to call upon the Mother of God with faith. Those present testified that when he prayed, the atmosphere itself changed. Rooms once heavy with oppression grew light, hearts burdened with despair lifted, silence turned into peace. Padre Pio explained that this change was not imagination. It was the breaking of chains. When the Rosary is prayed, he said, the enemy is bound and the soul is freed. Wow! He often told his children to visualize what was happening. Each bead was a strike, each prayer a chain tightening around the serpent. He said to picture the Blessed Mother standing beside them, crushing the head of the enemy as promised in Genesis. This was not to stir emotion alone, it was to anchor faith in the unseen reality that unfolds when the Rosary is prayed. Padre Pio guided them to declare victory out loud. He said the enemy flees when prayers are spoken boldly. Whispered words have power, but a raised voice declares authority. He would lead with words like, "In the name of Jesus, through the prayers of Mary, every darkness is broken. Every spirit of fear must leave. Every chain of despair must fall." Those praying with him repeated, and many described feeling as though invisible walls shattered around them. He insisted that the Rosary was not passive meditation, but active warfare. He called his followers to pray until they felt the shift. He explained that breakthrough sometimes comes suddenly, peace flooding in like light bursting through clouds. Other times, it comes gradually, hearts loosening grip on fear bead by bead. But he reminded them, do not stop until you sense the enemy's grip is broken. There were moments when Padre Pio himself battled openly. Witnesses recall nights when his cell shook with noises no one else could explain, when he groaned under attacks of unseen forces. Yet they always found him with beads in hand, lips moving, whispering prayers. By dawn, peace always returned. He told them, "This weapon never fails. If you persist, you will prevail." He also emphasized thanksgiving as part of activation. He instructed, after finishing the decades, pause and give thanks. Gratitude seals the victory, declaring trust that God has acted. He said, do not leave the Rosary with doubt, leave it with praise. For Padre Pio, thanksgiving turned prayer into testimony. It shifted the heart from pleading to celebrating. Many who followed his activation process reported breakthroughs, families reconciled after years of silence, addictions broke, sleepless nights turned into rest, fear lifted from children. Padre Pio explained these testimonies not as coincidences, but as fruit of obedience. He reminded them, when you pray the Rosary with faith, you are never alone. Mary herself joins you, and where she enters, Satan flees. He urged his followers to keep practicing activation until it became instinct. He said the Rosary should not remain in theory, but become a rhythm of life. Prayed in the morning to set the day, at night to guard the house, in moments of fear to reclaim peace. He told them, let it be the breath of your soul. Activation for Padre Pio was not a one-time event, but a lifestyle. He encouraged repetition, persistence, and courage. He told them never to measure by feelings, but by faith. Even when nothing seemed to change, he urged, keep striking. Every bead is another wound against the enemy. The chain will break. And once he had led them into this breakthrough, he turned their eyes inward. He reminded them that victory was not only about changing the atmosphere outside, but about aligning the heart within. He said, the Rosary must not only fight for your home, it must shape your soul. That deeper alignment is where he led them next. Padre Pio often reminded those around him that the greatest battlefield was not only outside the home, but inside the heart. He said the Rosary was not given merely to chase away external darkness. It was given to align the soul with God. Without this inner alignment, he warned, victories would not last. The enemy returns, he said, where the heart remains divided. He explained that many people prayed to change their circumstances, but never allowed prayer to change their spirit. They used the Rosary to ask for protection around them, but resisted its power to purify within. Padre Pio warned, "A fortress with open gates cannot stand. Guard your heart as fiercely as your home." For him, the Rosary was not only defense, it was transformation. He urged his children to let each mystery of the Rosary reshape them. When meditating on the Annunciation, he told them to learn Mary's humility and obedience. When meditating on the Passion, he called them to embrace endurance and forgiveness. When celebrating the Resurrection, he invited them to walk in joy instead of despair. He explained that every mystery is not just history but mirror, showing the soul what it must become. Padre Pio tied this to the sacraments. He said the Rosary is powerful, but its fire burns brighter when united with confession, with the Eucharist, with a life lived in grace. He encouraged frequent confession, reminding them that repentance clears the heart for prayer to strike deeper. He said, "The Rosary is a sword, but confession sharpens its blade." And he insisted that receiving Christ in the Eucharist gave strength no darkness could rival. He often warned against praying outwardly while living inwardly in sin. He said the enemy laughs when the lips recite, but the life rebels. For this reason, he called his children not only to hold the beads, but to align their choices with the God they prayed to. "Do not let your life contradict your prayer," he told them. "Let your heart agree with your words." Padre Pio also taught about peace. He said the Rosary was not meant to leave the soul restless, but to root it in calm trust. He urged his followers not to finish their prayer until their spirit felt quiet, anchored in God. He compared the Rosary to a mother rocking her child until sleep comes. Gentle repetition calming the heart into rest. "Do not rise from prayer still anxious," he said. "Pray until peace has entered." He also spoke about the union of inner and outer. He said a home filled with Rosary prayer becomes strong, but even stronger when every person in that home lives the prayer inwardly. He gave the image of a lamp. If the oil is gone inside, no flame can burn outside. In the same way, if the heart is empty, even many rosaries will lack fire. But if the heart is full of grace, one Rosary prayed with love can shake the walls of hell. Padre Pio's own life proved this. Those who visited him were struck not only by the beads in his hand, but by the purity in his soul. His prayer had weight, because his life carried holiness. He reminded people that the Rosary is strongest when prayed by a heart surrendered, a heart aligned. "Holiness is the sheath of the weapon," he said. "Without it, the blade is exposed and weak." He urged believers not to despair when they struggled. He said alignment is a journey, not a single act. Each day, let the Rosary pull your heart closer, he told them. If you fail, begin again. Each bead is another chance. He reassured them that Mary herself walks with them in that process, shaping hearts gently through prayer. In this teaching, Padre Pio closed the gap between outward battle and inward renewal. He showed that the Rosary builds both walls around and foundations within. He insisted that only this union secures lasting victory. And when he had settled their hearts in alignment, he would seal the moment with blessing and prayer, declaring protection that no enemy could break. That final seal is what he left his children with, and it is where this journey now leads. When Padre Pio brought his teaching to a close, he never ended with theory. He sealed the moment in prayer, so that no seed of truth would be stolen by the enemy. He reminded his children that every Rosary prayed with faith builds a fortress. He said, "Every bead is a stone, Every decade is a wall. By the end, you are surrounded by a fortress the devil cannot enter. He would often stretch his wounded hands over those before him and declare protection. Witnesses recall the weight in his words as he prayed, "Lord, through the intercession of Mary, let no weapon formed against these souls prosper. Let every darkness flee their homes. Let every fear bow to your peace." People left with tears in their eyes, testifying that they felt lighter, as though chains had fallen from their shoulders. Padre Pio always emphasized that this seal was not his power, but heaven's promise. He pointed again and again to Mary's protection, Christ's victory, the Spirit's presence. He warned his followers never to trust in him as a man, but in the God he served. He said, "If you hold the Rosary, you hold the hand of the Mother, and where she leads you, the enemy cannot follow." He often closed with a call to perseverance. He reminded them that the battle was daily, that the Rosary must become breath, rhythm, lifeline. He said, "Pray it in the morning, pray it in the night, pray it when fear rises, pray it when joy overflows. Do not put it aside, for the war never sleeps." His call was not to a moment of inspiration, but to a lifetime of discipline. Padre Pio also urged his children to spread the Rosary. He insisted it was not enough to pray alone. "Give it to others," he said. "Place it in their hands. Teach them. Multiply the warriors." He believed that every Rosary shared was another sword added to heaven's army, another shield raised over the world. At the end of such moments, he would invite them into a simple but fierce prayer of sealing. He would tell them to hold their beads tightly and whisper, "Mary, keep me under your mantle. Jesus, let your victory be mine. Holy Spirit, fill my heart with fire." He promised that those who prayed this seal sincerely would walk out armed, never alone, never unguarded. And now, as his words echo across time, that same seal rests on you. What you have heard is not a story from the past. It is a call for today. The same weapon Padre Pio wielded is within your reach. The same protection he trusted is waiting for you. The chains that bound others can break in your own life. The fortress he described can surround your home. The breakthrough he carried can become yours. So take the Rosary, grip it, pray it, let it build your walls, let it cleanse your heart, let it scatter your enemies. Padre Pio left no doubt. This is the weapon heaven placed in your hands. Use it and you will see victory. Before we close, listen carefully. This is not the end. Padre Pio often said that prayer leads step by step, one mystery into another. What you have begun here is only the first part. When this video ends, don't click away. Another powerful message will appear on your screen that will complete what has started here today. It is not an accident that you found this prayer. It is not coincidence that these words are stirring your heart. God has more for you, and the next breakthrough is just one click away. So subscribe, share this word, and return. Stay under the mantle of Mary. Stay with the weapon in your hand, and stay connected, because the battle is not over, and your victory has only just begun.